Welcome to Coleman Report Live. I'm Bob Coleman, and we're talking Main Street and the small business lenders who help it grow. July 24th edition. Katie Watucky, our editor. Lance Sexton, undisclosed location in Arkansas. Coleman, webinar trainer, instructor extraordinaire. Lance, anything going on these days?
Well, today's a very exciting day, Bob. something you and I thought would happen on June the 30th has finally occurred.
3 weeks. What's 3 weeks between friends? Yeah.
We were reasonably close, within a month.
Yeah, and Katie was wrong. Also, I want to go on record. She said August. So let's spread the blame around.
Well, I still think we might get more in August, but.
Well, no. All right.
You
we'll
are
give
correct.
We'll give you that out. Have you read the notice? First of all, the notice is attached to the GoToWebinar dashboard. It was also sent to you in the email as an 8-page notice. And how many of you have read it? And also, I think that's wrong. I think we're not at 2038. I think that's 2000. Anyway, that's not quite right. But you all know what I'm talking about. Wow, look at that, Lance. 2/3.
Yeah. That's pretty amazing, Bob. You can add me to the group, Bob. I anxiously read it as soon as received and was excited to see some things. Now, there's still a missing piece that I'm sure we'll talk about today.
We will definitely talk about that. There's been a number of stories, and again, our editorial position is we are not going to focus on doom and gloom. We could do that. Yeah, there are some doom and gloom stories, but there's also a lot of positive stories out there as well. As Lance has said many times, there are companies that are adapting well, online companies that are doing well. Go ahead, Lance.
Well, and the one thing I was going to say, and I've talked about this before, back in 2010, when we were in a different recession, but, it was a recession. SBA lending was at record levels. So the people that are on this call, it may be tough right now. We may have borrowers that are struggling, but for every business that closes, I can assure you there will be an entrepreneur with an idea who wants to open a new.
Yeah, unfortunately, disruption is not always easy. It's not fun to go through. Interesting, 1 to 2 months, that's in line with the articles that I'm reading. And obviously, this is an average, but there are a number of articles, Wall Street Journal. And Lance, we don't, you all have access to the Wall Street Journal, so we don't regurgitate what they write about. But I think this is an important trend, and nowhere in our underwriting analysis do we say, hey, how much cash reserves do you have? Now, in the 1920, you have to verify or certify that you believe that there's 18 months worth of resources to operate that business. So that's interesting, Lance.
Well, one of the things, Bob, that I want to encourage everybody, because we're coming out of PPP. We're looking at new 7A opportunities, and I have always been a proponent of making sure you lend the borrower enough money to stay in business, not just get in business, which means we need to make sure we evaluate their working capital position, and if they don't have plenty of working capital, include working capital in your SBA 7A loan.
Absolutely, and well said. There was another notice that came out yesterday. Has your lending institution reported suspicious activity in the COVID-19 EIDL? I can't quite call it idle yet, Lance, but I'll let you and Katie do that.
COVID-19 idle, Bob.
And when we say reported, where are we reporting this, Lance?
I'm guessing to the SBA Inspector General.
Yeah. Good. I'm glad to see it's less than 10%, 1 in 10, which is a high enough threshold, which instructs the lenders, hey, let's be careful in terms of our analysis. It's out there, but it's not as overwhelming as some reports indicate. Correct, Katie?
Right. We were seeing a couple reports out there, and I think we're just going to hear about it at a higher rate because those are the interesting stories, and that's what's going to be plastered all over the news.
Yeah,
So you're
we
going to
do
hear
that
about
too. I mean, we have
all
to,
of
we do our
it.
Fraud Fridays, and we have to do a little sensationalism to balance it out. Anyway, I cut you off. Go ahead, Katie.
No, that was basically it. I was just saying that you're going to hear about more of these in the news because you're not going to hear reports about the cases where there wasn't suspicious activity. Nobody really cares about that.
Yeah,
Well,
and
and
I don't see. Go ahead, Lance.
it's like the extensive coverage of the fact that a gentleman's club in the Midwest, a few gentlemen's clubs got PPP loans. They want to focus on that, but not the unprecedented number of loans that were out there. That question about cash reserves, without PPP, at 100% probably would have been 0 to 1 month. But they tend to focus on certain projects or certain loans that make for good reading, and neglect to see the bigger picture, which is PPP help and EIDL helped a ton of small business.
Yeah, I don't see too many articles about the mom and pop Italian restaurant who've adapted and been able to keep their employees and have gone to online and delivery, and the community supporting them. You see every now and then you see that, but it's nice to see the community banding together to support these small business mom and pop shops.
Oh, I think that's critically important. My wife and I make a point of dining out. We take precautions. We wear our masks. We carry hand sanitizer. We do all the things that are required, but we make a point of supporting those restaurants that are open.
Very, very good. And don't forget, every now and then I see these articles about these big corporate franchises, and I want to throw stuff against the wall. Those are small business entrepreneurs who own a franchise, and they're small business operators. Katie, what's going on?
I think.
What's going on, Katie? What's the notice say?
So the notice is about 8 pages long, and it's linked in your handouts. Basically what it's saying is they've connected, the SBA has connected with a services technology provider to create a secure PPP forgiveness platform. That platform is supposed to be live and begin accepting lender submissions on August 10th. More information about how that whole process will go about is going to be in that system, and also we are going to have a webinar on it.
Yeah. Lance, we can submit these August 10th, but we can start doing work on these now, correct?
You can start collecting it. The only piece we're missing is whether or not there's going to be blanket forgiveness on the small deals, which that's the one piece. This was a big breakthrough, guys. Now we know where and when that we're going to submit our PPP forgiveness request. The only thing that we're missing right now in Congress, Katie probably can clarify better than I, is addressing that. So hopefully by next week, we'll see something on that.
Yeah, we will. There will be forgiveness that's fairly uniform supporting. We see the 150 bandied about, also other trade organizations, I believe ICBA. Other trade organizations are at 350. Some have even gone up to a little bit higher. I think it's going to come in at the 150 or 350 level.
Right.
I
And we're
agree,
still
Bob.
waiting to find out about P4, and there's also some other proposals that haven't really been named yet, but they're very, very similar. Almost all of them have some kind of blanket forgiveness at a lower level of some sort.
And the next slide. Go ahead, Lance.
My biggest concern, Bob, is reading about Republican leadership having a hard time agreeing on how they're going to do this. And I don't doubt that it's going to get done, but when they disagree, it means it may not be exactly when we'd like it to get done.
I've been reading these articles for 30 years, and guess what? We still have a program. So
yeah, absolutely.
In month 6 of COVID, and this is not the time over a 30-year time period that someone's going to rise up and say, no, we're not gonna fund this stuff. It's going to be funded. It's just we don't know how it looks like. Would you agree with that, Lance? I'm sorry to be cynical, but I'm sick and tired of reading all these articles where everything's going, it's not going to work.
The thing I would like to tell everybody on the call, for many years, SBA was an often forgotten program in the federal government that didn't get a lot of attention. Right now, SBA is the sweetheart of the federal government. Your average person who wouldn't know what SBA was reads about it on their smartphone, reads about it if they read a newspaper, gets an opportunity to see it, hear SBA said in news broadcasts almost daily. SBA is at a grand.
Katie, do me a favor for Monday's show. Will you track down approval ratings? I know I saw one about 6-9 months ago where small business were right up there with military. And so let's go ahead and do that and see where we are. There's got to be some of the latest surveys out there.
Yeah, especially
and Bob, the statistic that was so fun that we talked about on Tuesday, sorry I was not here yesterday, but there are more loans done with SBA in the last 6 months than in the previous, since the SBA started in the 50s.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely. Bonus question, 53 or 54, Lance?
The start of SBA?
Yeah.
I'm going to go 54, Bob, but I'm probably wrong.
I believe you're right. It's early 50s. This is under Eisenhower's administration, and I got time. And do you know why? I love telling this story. The reason why Eisenhower is credited for supporting Main Street small business. He grew up in a place called Abilene, Kansas, very Midwestern local Main Street. And when he was in the Army in the 30s. He wanted to make sure his Main Street business owners got the appropriate slice of defense appropriations. And in World War II, he was very instrumental in making sure these small manufacturers were part of the war effort. So that was a passion of his, and it made perfect sense when he became president to say, hey, we want to have we have all these government programs. We want a government program to support small business. I'm sorry. I love telling that story.
No, that's great. One of the great supporters of SBA throughout the years, and I've had the pleasure to sit down and talk entrepreneurship with him at one point, was Senator Dale Bumpers from Arkansas, who was chairman of the Senate Small Business Committee. And Arkansas has one of the most robust small business development center programs in the country, and part of the reason for that was Senator Bumpers' love of and interest in the SBA.
Yeah, and you don't read these stories, but after the riots in '68, where some of us were around, it was SBA's financing that went back in and rebuilt a lot of that inner city. That came from SBA funding. So in terms of a rich history of supporting American jobs and supporting America's Main Street, SBA's been at the forefront. And that's why, these other stories are sexy and you shake your head, but let's put this all into context. Obviously I'm speaking to the choir here, but everyone is supportive of the industry. Okay, let's go through.
And Bob, one final comment. How many federal government agencies do you know that are at the pinnacle of their support and success at this point in time? SBA?
Sam has chastised us. He says, guys, get it right. 1953. D said 53 as well.
Okay, so good job, Sam.
We stand corrected. Okay. Let's see. Let's go to our questions. That follow-up question to forgiveness procedure needs to be: how many people's heads exploded during the reading? How'd you do, Lance?
Well, I'm looking.
Did your head explode during the reading of the notice?
I'm sorry, Bob?
Did your head explode during the reading of that 8-page notice?
Not really. There was some critical information. If you read the notice, it's like a lot of SBA notices. The last 3 or 4 pages of the notice were probably the most crucial ones. And there's some repetitive information, but and I always love at the bottom of my good friend June Kim signed the notice, but it's I say he's a good friend. He used to work for John Miller, and of course I work for John Miller at a different level. But long and short of it, it was a good notice, but it did say there's going to be an interim final rule issued.
Yeah. Mike said, I sure would like to see detailed instructions on exactly how to fill out the Schedule A. Very confusing. Lance, I assume that's something you're going to be going through on Wednesday at our webinar.
Yeah, we'll take a look at Schedule A and how to complete it on Wednesday.
Very quickly, let's talk about the cyber Bitcoin. I can't even pronounce it. The Bitcoin fraud using PPP loans. What happened here, Katie?
So this is a man from Texas. I believe he's from Houston, but I could be wrong. And what he did is, we don't even really know if he owned these businesses, but he claimed to own 2 businesses. One was a barbecue business and the other was a landscaping business. And he's applied for two PPP loans to support those. And the PPP loans added up to about $1.1 million. Both of those loans were accepted, and he then immediately took the loan that was meant to be for the Texas barbecue and took, which was about $956,000, and put that into a cryptocurrency program, and then began trading cryptocurrency and actually making money off of this program. Later in the interviews, he claimed, well, he thought that's how payroll worked. I don't really know how he thought that was how payroll worked, because I've never heard of it working that way. No. And then the other $160,000 for the other business, he put into a personal account, which was slowly depleted through ATM withdrawals. They didn't really say how they caught him, but I think probably what they did was this Texas barbecue. If you started looking at his application, each person who worked in his business was making $90,000 a month. I don't know about you, but I would work at a barbecue place that gives me $90,000 a month.
Well, and Bob, my friends from Texas that are on the call today would probably support this comment. What kind of person steals money intended for good Texas barbecue and uses it for something else? He needs to go to jail for a long time.
We have a chart here. Our ratings in Texas just went through the roof, Lance. So good.
Yeah. Well, Kansas City, Memphis, and Texas barbecue. Arkansas has some good barbecue too, but Texas has some fine barbecue.
Absolutely. Cryptocurrency. Thank you very much for that. For some reason, I was stumbling over that. Ramon says, do you know if there is a new PPP loan planned in the new CARES Act? The answer is yes, there will be. There's going to be. Go ahead, Lance. You're shaking your head. I mean, you're nodding like you know what you're talking about.
Yeah. P4 is in there. Katie and you both know about P4 as well, which should extend the PPP program, and it should allow for a second run at PPP funds for certain businesses that have been impacted. Now, I think there's going to be a formula to calculate whether or not they qualify, but there is in P4 if it passes, and we're talking about what, Katie, next week? A vote?
Congress is back in session this week. There were rumors that they were going to vote on it this week, but I think next week is the earliest, obviously, because we're on Friday now. So.
Yeah. But yes, there is additional PPP coming.
Let's get Eric's question, then we'll go to Seth's question. We're running over a little bit. Any extension for 7A payments for new and existing loans? Any 7A enhancements? Again,
any SBA lender would love to see an extension of the CARES Act payments, but I'm not seeing anything in the current legislation.
But again, remember, we're now, the second wave is much worse than the first wave. And if we did all this stimulus for the first wave, something will happen in the second wave. Eric, we don't know. We don't know exactly how it's going to work, other than I stick to my statement that this is still a bipartisan effort, and they're going to bury, the Republicans and Democrats are going to bury the hatchet and, work together and get this done.
The thing, Eric, that they're still working on the bill, so it might get slipped in there. But right now, I don't see it. But again, they've not put a bill up for vote yet, and it could get in there before they put it up for vote.
Seth wants to know, and I don't have the answer to this, Seth, so I'll throw it out to Lance and Katie. What was your take on EIDL not being forgiven from the total amount? Up until this point, we thought the $10K from EIDL would be considered a grant.
You're talking about not forgiven?
Yeah, I mean, that's
I thought that it was going to be cut off the PPP, the top of the PPP line.
Seth, we'll get back to that.
I'm not clear on that, Bob, and would love a day or two to look at it.
Yeah, I think the issue, Seth, is that there was a certain date they cut that off, but the previous stuff will be wrapped up in that. But Katie, write that down, and we'll deal with that on Monday. Unfortunately, I'll make the last comment is that this has a lot of moving parts. And when we read something, and there's a lot of difference between proposals and things that have been adopted. And the final thought for entering the weekend is it will be resolved. I think lenders and Main Street will get the majority of what they want. But as always in this process, a couple of things will slide through the cracks, and we'll see where we end up, right, Lance?
Absolutely. That's one thing that we've learned with PPP and the Main Street lending program and EIDL. If you don't like it today, wait till tomorrow. It'll probably change.
Yeah, that in Florida weather, I've heard that. Okay, very good. Lance, looking forward to your webinar. Hey, if you want to sign up easily, just send an email to joseph@colemanreport.com. Katie and Lance, enjoy your weekend. I know, Katie. We expect an update on what you're doing next week, Katie. We have you until what, through Thursday?
Yes, through Thursday.
Okay, well, we will cheer you on as you navigate. So you get to personally navigate through this stuff and try to get married. So go ahead and tell the story real quick. Now I brought it up. What happened?
So someone in the family did test positive a couple weeks ago, or just last week. And while we haven't been in contact with them, we have been in contact with people who have been in contact with them. So we're just kind of waiting to make sure that everybody's healthy and everything. But unfortunately, that means we lost our officiant, and I have to wait out a couple more days, and I was supposed to meet up with the moving truck tomorrow. So my fiance is going to handle all that. So
I'm sorry.
Hey, Bob.
We're laughing with you and not at you. And I'm glad you're smiling because it's terrible what you're going through.
Bob, should I go online and get ordained right quick?
I think you better do that.
Well, that's what my sister's going to do too, just in case. So
Katie, hey, thank you all for joining us today for the Coleman Report Live and for supporting America's Main Street, one entrepreneur at a time. Talk to you Monday. Thanks.
Yeah.
Have a great weekend.